Hello. So with this video I feel like doing another video on parenthood. I already did one on emotional neglect and how to be a good parent you need to really engage in your child's perspective, so that you will in that way create a foundation of love. When the child feels really understood and cherished, and the child get an experience how you as a parent are leaving sort of your own perspective in order to totally embrace and surrender to the child's perspective, so you can understand the child while then simultaneously, give the child a safe foundation and structure and boundaries around the child's perspective and brain. And then I talked about the difficulty, though, of doing this in many societies in this world, where there are certain norms, and those norms are not always, benefiting for the child. It's not always, beneficial, or not promoting the child to keep his own mind and his own brain and ideas. It's very influenced by molding the child into a certain system, until the child sort of forgets itself and become like everyone else. And honestly, just a parenthesis, that's according to me one reason to mental health issues is actually that we forget who we are. We forget who we are, and we suppress who we are, or we get the impression that who we are not okay, and it's not welcomed. So when that happens over a period of time where we're young, then when we're adult or already in teenagers, they understand that. Then of course it's going to give symptoms of depression or anxiety. We will get scared, anxiety, because we don't fit in, or we're going to be depressed because we suppress ourselves. So the way out of mental health issue is basically about remembering who you are. That's why we go to therapy or to retreats or do certain kinds of exercises. It's the journey of remembering who we are. So that's sad that we need to forget in order to remember. However, it's the remembrance though becomes a lot more powerful if we had a period of forgetting who we are and being lost in darkness. So it's not all bad to forget who we are. Anyway, that's not the topic of this video. With this video, I will continue to highlight, however, the difficulty of being a parent. And like in the last video, I talked about how difficult it's to promote this healthy environment for your child. So again, the child's perspective. But in this video, I really want to, give some love to you as a parent, and to really give you some slack that, man, it's really difficult, Well, I shouldn't get too negative, but yeah, I will highlight that in this video to really support you as a parent, that we are in the Western society anyway, like totally flooded with all the demands of how we should be this engaged in our kids, and also how the kids are really, attached to us, then really engaged in us as a parent and attached to us. It can totally flood anyone's nervous system. And, most parents I know are quite exhausted actually, but we still do it. We still persevere because we have no other choice in this society where, everything is ba, 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 ba. It's no rest. And that's not only as parents, obviously, it's for everyone. But yeah, let's take some time in this video to really give some normalization time and some love to all the parents out there who truly are doing their best to give kids in today's society what we think they need, and they really try to keep it up and to be the best parent ever. But it's also for the parent who is overwhelmed and just maybe detached, or like crying every day and cannot keep up actually, because I will give you some understanding in that even though yes, it's important to, as a parent, engage in the child's world and to protect it at all costs from being too influenced by outer ideas, or like to protect it from being brainwashed and protect it from being programmed in a way that doesn't promote their well-being, even though I think that's very important. Everything has so many perspectives, so I also think the perspective of, you know, really nurturing you as a parent, that it does take a lot from you, a lot of energy, and especially if you don't have support, or if you're living in a society where the norms are really not, you know, tuned into how you want to live. And I mentioned this in the other video about parenthood, like maybe you live somewhere where the school system, you know, sort of you feel like it stresses your child, and it's not really the school that you have chosen, because school is not bad, but some school systems, you know, are more stressful for the child, and they sort of lose themselves and lose the playfulness and the creativity that comes with learning. You know, in order to learn, you need to be relaxed in your brain. In order to learn, you need to play. You know, it's no news. But many school systems are not created in that way. So the child gets stressed, and then the brain sort of shuts down and doesn't function on its highest level. And then the child thinks that it's stupid and that it can't learn. And especially certain subjects are more sensitive to this. For example, math is like this typical subject that many kids struggle with. That everyone is not a genius in math, but everyone could actually benefit with learning math in a very creative and playful way. Actually, I myself am an example of that. I was not good in math, like the first year of, I think it was high school. But then an old math teacher of mine happened to be my neighbor growing up. And his wife passed, so he was alone. And then I started visiting him. And you know, his name was Helge, and he has a dear place in my heart. And he was just all play, and his whole house was just, I don't know, like Harry Potter environment for sure. His whole house was these old school calculating machines, like all he collected them. So it was like a Harry Potter house, but a mathematician. And well, his way, he took his time with me. It was very creative. It was like art. Math was like art, and he truly enjoyed talking about it. And it was just playfulness, and we had, you know, ate some biscuits, and it was like the most special time spending with him. And then, of course, I got A in math from then on. I mean, I'm not a math, I don't have a math brain, but with him, I could access those parts in my brain that could actually understand math in a better way. Why? Because it was play. It was creative, it was relaxed, it was light, it was fun, it was not stress and you need to, and now you need to do this in a certain time and everyone else is done before you, blah, blah, blah. It was not that. It was just fun and light and play. So of course, I think, you know, an environment like that is obviously a lot better for learning, and school systems should be more like that. Maybe that can be another video, like the optimal environment for learning. I think that talking about that could inspire a lot of you to understand that you're not actually stupid. It's just that the environment for learning is not optimal for you, which makes your brain closes down. But anyway, my brain tends to take all different directions and associate a little bit, so I will keep myself to the theme of this video, which is actually to you, again, as a parent. Like maybe you live somewhere where the environment is not the one you consciously chose, and it's stressing you. And maybe you are divorced, or you are in a married, but still, you know, maybe you take too much of the responsibility, even though you are like married happily after, or you're like in a couple and you're like a family. Still, most of the time, the way many of us live today is we are quite alone in raising our kids in the Western society. We are quite alone. Some of you are lucky to maybe have nice relatives around, or you live more in a community or like collective or whatever. That is better for support and to share the workload. But so for this video, I'm talking to you who feel sort of alone in parenthood and really doing your best or cannot do your best because you're overwhelmed. Let's talk about, you know, the way parenting is done today actually demands a little bit too much of you, right? So why is that? Well, when, my parents grew up, what was the role of parents then, like in the Western society? Well, it was mom, she, would cook food. So she would, make sure that the kids had something to eat, and dad would work a lot. And the kids, well, what did they do? Well, they didn't have screens for sure and no television. So they would either do chores or they would play inside or outside with each other, with siblings. And they would had to use their own creative mind to, make something up, to fantasize. Yeah, they were left alone a lot more than today. So the parents were not at all engaged in the same way that we need to be today. And yes, I talked about that before. Yeah, you really need to engage for healthy development. And I still think that's true. However, the problem is, as I said, like when we are forced to engage in the child's world, but it's a world that we didn't really choose. It's the world of, social media or video games or like Eurovision television shows. And maybe, a lot of things that we maybe don't stand for, that we didn't choose ourselves. But in order to, understand our child and to protect our child also, especially on social media, we are forced to engage. If we don't, maybe, they will get flooded with information that we don't want for them. So we are in a way forced to engage a lot more because the influence from the outside is so much more. It's overwhelming. And again, it's the same for adults, right? So just the minute we wake up in the morning, we pick up our phone, and in a second we are like in the war of Gaza, just watching the Instagram. So our brain is sort of like shocked from waking up, and then we're in Gaza, and then like we're in a beauty tutorial the next second. It's a lot for our brain to jump like that between different contexts. So we are, of course, also flooded. But then our kids' brain, they grow up in this. Of course, that influences them a lot. So if we want to give our kids like an upbringing that we stand for, we need to engage in that world. But we are already, we have our own life, and we're already engaged and overwhelmed in our own life. So then we have to engage in their world too. And then we have to engage in certain kinds of activities. At least where I live, like in Sweden, there is soccer, or there's hockey, and there is dance, and there's choir, and it's all different kinds of sports that the kids should try, which is nice. But I think today we drive them a lot more to these different activities, like curling more. That's the culture I've seen anyway. When I grew up, we took the bike a lot more, and we're more independent in getting ourselves from point A to point B. But today, again, parents are so much more engaged. And then, again, they should meet friends. And also we should have the time for sitting down and read with them. And then we should also have the time to talk about how it was in school. And then there are all these, newsletters from school where we should read and keep updated about what are they doing in school, what are they learning, and all this advice. Oh, you should talk about this during dinner with your child, so because this is what we talk about in school. And then there is also a newsletter from soccer games or hockey games, or there is a lot to take in. And of course we need to cook nice food for them so they get healthy, and we need to have this calm, nice conversations around the dinner table, etc., etc. It's just a lot. And in the middle of all this, we are supposed to work. We are supposed to have our own life and our own emotions and our own processes and our own relationship problems, and to meet our friends and have our own interests. And I mean, how is this human? How are we supposed to, make this? I don't think it's, it's too much. It's too much for us. It makes us stressed, and it can give guilty feelings if we can't keep up with the pace of the society. And again, this might not be the situation for everyone. Some of you maybe live like in places where it's more relaxed. I'm talking about the more, extreme environment where it's like everything, it's in there. And I used to say that if you are stressed by that life, I totally get you. And if you cannot choose another life, if you cannot move, or if you cannot move to another school, if you cannot get support, if you cannot get help, then let's talk about, what you actually can do, even though you're sort of trapped. So first of all, make sure, can you actually change something in this flooded, overwhelmed situation? Can you get more support? And if you can't, okay. So the theme of everything in this situation, in this context, is actually invasion. You are being totally invaded by events or by interests that you have not chosen, right? That can be an humbling experience. It is. It can be a humbling experience, because, we cannot choose everything in our life. But before we accept that it's a humbling experience, we need to be able to survive in the experience. And also kids in itself can be quite invasive. Again, I'm talking about how important it is to take their perspective and all that. But kids, of course, they always want something from you as a parent. You can tell, if you're a sensitive person and you're sitting in a sofa and your kid is coming and you are easily overwhelmed, you will feel the energy of when they want something from you. They want a snack, or they want you to read, or they want you to help them. Like normal things. You are their parent. But if you're already stressed and overwhelmed and you have no capacity to draw boundaries and have your own space, unfortunately, what will happen is that you will associate your child coming close to you as a threat. And that's not good. That's not good, because then you will project the feeling you have inside of being stressed and overwhelmed, that is the fault of the child, which then can lead to projections. Again, watch the video about projections to get clear on what it is. It's like you have this fear inside that you cannot keep inside, and then your brain cannot, think straight. So it projects whatever you feel inside on the other person. And that can happen with your child. If you are overwhelmed, super stressed by all these external forces, and your child is approaching you and wants something from you, and then you feel like, oh, not more, I cannot take it no more, and you feel stressed, and you either reject your child, or you get irritated at your child, or you get even more overwhelmed, and you get exhausted and have no energy. And worst case, you think it's because of the child. And it might even be that you start to think that you start to regret having kids. So this video is also for you who actually regret having kids. And it might mean that you actually do, but it might also be that you have that thought because it's not because of the child per se, it's because of the everything I said. It's because of the situation and the environment that your child was born into that is making you overwhelmed, and then you see the child as a problem. I'm not, suited for kids. I shouldn't have a child. When it's actually, no, it's not the fault of the child. It's not the fault of you, but it's, the society that these children grow up with, and how alone we are, and how powerless we are in needing to fix and do everything for our kids. So again, if you have the thought that you regret and you feel guilty about it, first, think about, if I could have a child in a different environment than I have now, in a different context, would my feelings toward my child then be different? You think about it, so that you don't put the blame on the child or on you, because it might be that you're just overwhelmed. But there is hope. You can do something about it. So again, coming back to the situation where you are sitting in a sofa, that you're overwhelmed and the child is approaching you with, I want this and I need this. And if you then start to feel, the energy of, it's invasive, like someone wants something from me and I cannot give anything else. Isn't it enough I gave you food? Isn't it enough I drove you to soccer training? What else do you want? Like, leave me alone. If you feel that, I would say that that's a sign that you need to draw more boundaries and create more space for you. No matter if you live like in a family, if you're two parents, or if you are alone as parents, you need to have more boundaries. You need to create more safe space for you. Otherwise, it will be consequences for your children, because they will continue to approach you and they will think that you're always available for them, and you will continue to be flooded, overwhelmed and stressed, and then you will continue to see, or them as the trigger to the stress. You will see the child as something bad, and that will create a toxic dynamic, right? We just want to get rid of the child. You want the child to go away. But you know what? It's not the child who should go away. That's not the problem. The problem is that you cannot draw a boundary. You cannot choose yourself. You cannot, walk away and create a safe space and be clear about it. Children are not stupid. They will understand this if you are clear about your intentions with it. So don't blame the child for being too much or too invasive. They are moldable. They are not the problem if they make you feel stressed. The problem is how you avoid something in you. You avoid cherishing your own worth, and you avoid getting to know and take responsibility about your own nervous system. Like, you need safe space even though you're a parent. And it's old news. You take on the mask first before your child. It's old news. You need to be capable for your child. And one reason I got inspired to talk about this subject, about the parent being overwhelmed and is not capable of drawing boundaries for the child, which is then making the child actually more invasive. That's the problem. When you are stressed as a parent, also, when you are stressed as a parent, the child often feels it. They feel that you are stressed and that you're overwhelmed and that you're not stable. And then the child will also become stressed and maybe, be more difficult for you. They will make their own dramas and temper tantrums, or be more clingy on you. So again, it's the worst case scenario. You are stressed, you need your space, but you cannot take your space. Your child feels your vibe and then become more clingy or give you more hell, and which you cannot cope with because you are stressed. So this is super important to break this dynamic. Some children are not affected. Some children are not as attuned with you. Maybe it's only one of the siblings who are more in tune with how you feel, but mostly, both. Mostly all of them are, feeling what the parent is feeling. And what will eventually happen if you cannot draw boundaries and leave the child to do its own thing where you are resting or taking your space, what will happen and what it will grow into is more anxiety in the child and something that we would call separation anxiety. Separation anxiety. If the child has no experience of separation, if the child has no experience of you separating, you drawing a boundary between you and the child will always, think that you are available to them. That's their reality. You as a parent are always available to them, and then they will think like that. And sometimes if you are not, because you are anxious, but you are not clear with it, they will be insecure. So they will feel sort of like a separation because they sense that you don't want to be there right now, but you are not clear with it. The result will be anxiety because they are not sure what to think, and anxiety about separation. And the reason I thought about this content was I talked with a dear friend of mine about dogs who have like separation anxiety, like they cannot be left alone at home, and they are following you everywhere, and they pee inside, and so on and so forth. And he said the reason to this person knows a lot about dogs. He said that it's because the dog's mother, when the dog was a puppy, didn't reject the puppy. It didn't reject the puppy properly. So for a normal, attachment development, also with dogs, for a dog to develop, more stability and security when it comes to independence and being separated from the mother needs to reject the puppy. And it rejects the puppy, the dog mom rejects the puppy by growling or do like that towards the puppy, so that the puppy understands, no, now you should not come close now. You are, on your own. And if the mother does that, which is the normal way to do it, then the puppy, will then first have some heartbreak maybe and some fear, but then it will get the idea and will develop or, know how to take care of itself and make something else up to do and, develop into more security inside. So that's how dog does it, do it. And if the mother doesn't do this with the puppy, then the puppy will grow up and will have separation anxiety. A lot of separation anxiety, cannot be left alone because it never had the experience of being rejected by a safe person, by their mother, being rejected in a safe environment. So then it will get anxious and cannot deal with being rejected by someone unknown, like in an unsafe environment. So it will just be clingy and cannot deal with it, or will, make a lot of fuss, just like a child. So I thought about it, it's the same then with adults. Yes, we need to be very present as parents. We need to engage. However, we also need to reject our child. Maybe not do like that to the child, but in the human way. We need to give the child an experience of being separated from us in a proper age. Not, of course, as a baby and toddler, but in proper age. We need to give the child an experience. No, I am my own person. And now you are on your own, and I trust you. I trust you to be on your own and make up your own play, creativity, and use your brain to make something up yourself. And I will be, alone with doing this, and you will do your thing. And if the child gets that experience, it will get used to that it's safe to be rejected. It's safe to be rejected. And that they will develop a faith in their own capacity to handle being alone, to handle, not being stimulated, to handle not being entertained by either a person or like a screen. So this is super important, not reject them just so they can go to a screen. No, reject the child, but without any other distractions, so that they can get acquainted to their own creativity, their own brain. This is super, super important for healthy development. And it's super, super important for you as a parent, right? Because you cannot be available at all times. You cannot be there, ready to give it all at all times for your child. First of all, it's not good for your health. And second of all, it's not real. It's not a real reflection of reality, of how reality will work for the child growing up. So the child will get rejected growing up. So why not teach the child rejection in a safe environment, safe context, right? And also to teach it, how to get to know its brain and what it can do, what it can create and produce, etc. in a safe environment. So how do you do this? Well, it's quite simple. Actually, you communicate. So when you are stressed and when you are flooded, you just communicate that, okay, I need some time alone now. I will go to my room and I will rest there, or I will do this or that. if it's resting or if it's doing some of your hobby or if it's even working, but I suggest resting if you are more flooded, of course. I will go to my room and you will be here, and yeah, I trust you to do your own thing. Mom or dad will go away now and you will be here and you will do your own thing. And if it's a child that is very, used to you being available at all times and dependent on you entertaining them, at first they probably won't accept what you're saying. Maybe they will knock the door or whatever, but it's just like with the dog, no, I'm here and you can make this, you can do this, and I need my time alone, I need my space, and you have yours. So it's just with the dog, you need to be persistent and clear with the boundary of space. And what you potentially will notice that after a while, there will be quiet, and then after a while, when you are done with your alone time, you will walk out and the child has, made something up on their own. And maybe play or they're creating something. They're using their fantasy. And honestly, it might even be that your presence, if you are overgiving parent, your presence is actually blocking their fantasy and creativity. It might be that you are blocking, just like a screen blocks, because the screen is always there to entertain. It might be that you as a parent also represent someone that always give and entertain. So when you are present, maybe you feel like, oh, they never come up with things and they're not creative. But if you erase yourself from the equation, maybe you will notice that their brain will open up and they will come up with things. So this is an important step of their own individuation process, like process to be independent but not detached. So independent but still in a dependent environment. So this is a super important tip and super important for their child's health and development. The balance of being there, present and engaged, however, not available at all times, and trusting the child's own independence and creative mind that it can unlock when they are on their own. That balance is very important for a child growing up. And it's very important for you as a parent as well. This can actually, for you as a parent, be about old programs in you, past programs that you have the idea that you need to be available and nice and kind and engaged and happy at all times in order for you to have the right to exist, or in order for you to get love and etc. Just like I talked about in another video about letting go of past programs and swimming into new rivers. This can be something like that you think that you need to be there and present, and maybe you had emotional neglect growing up, so you overcompensate with your own kids. So we can understand why you do, and maybe, I don't know, it's better than emotional neglect, but however, now it's time for you to also give them some neglect. So you balance it out. And that's also a part of a healing journey for yourself, to actually think about if you are somehow overgiving, if you're always available, always attuned, and why is that? How do you feel? Do you feel guilty when you sort of leave them alone and when you have your space? Is that hard for you to do? Well, then it's something you should do, because it's a normal thing. You're teaching the child about integrity, that you're not someone that can be invaded and present for their needs at all times. You are their own person, and then you are teaching them the same thing about they also have integrity and boundaries. They are their own person. So to create this space is good for you and your well-being, and it's also, you can heal something from your past, do things in a new way, and balance again presence and neglect. And you're giving, also your child a nice experience of growing their own minds and their own dependence in a safe environment. So yeah, 100% understanding for you as a parent being flooded and overstimulated in the Western society. You're doing a great job. You're a great parent. You're doing your best. And you need to stay engaged, but you need to have your own space, your own integrity, for everyone's sake. So I hope you found this video helpful and inspirational for you. Maybe it wasn't, not everyone recognized themselves in this, but for you who does, I wish you the best and good luck with drawing boundaries but still being engaged. Please comment if this is something that resonated with you, and feel free to contact me if you need some extra help or counseling in this. And I wish you a good day.